3rd and 4th platoons. We're going to sweep our next door neighbors again. See if we can slow down the welcome guests coming over the wall. I'd like for you to have more non-combat experience first. You really see a lot of shortage of checks as otherwise. I signed up to do with anything.
What's up, guys? Welcome, man, to the latest edition of Terrible Towel Tuesday. I am your host, SimFBallCritic, and let's jump right into it. As you're probably going to hear a little background noise, waters, toilet flushing and all of that. I'm down here in the basement, so you just got to deal with that. I'm just looking over here, guys, to the right to make sure everything is working correctly. Yes, we got volume. I see you guys in the chat, so let's get right to it. Now, okay, we're coming off the bye week, so not a whole lot to talk about, man. In fact, you know, this might not be as long of a show. Don't have a whole lot to talk about. I think what I'm really going to do is rely on you guys tonight, man, and just look at your chat, you know, look through the chat, and we'll just have a little discussion tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming game and, you know, what I think the Steelers will need to do to win. We'll talk about a couple of guys that are on the roster. We'll talk about possibly an addition to the roster. And we'll talk about, of course, Le'Veon Bell and few little things like that. Will be in and out, so not a whole lot to talk about. But hey, it is good to be at the top of the AFC North, isn't it? Let's give that a round of applause and make sure it works here. Round of applause. It seems to not be working, guys. Oh, there it is. There it is. Wasn't working for me at first, but there it is. Let's give that a round of applause, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 3-2-1. On the bye week, on their day off, they end up being at the top of the food chain in the AFC North. You know, due to the Ravens losing to the Saints, I thought that could be a game that the Ravens could lose. I wanted to see how they would be able to handle, you know, Drew Brees in particular, and, you know, with Ravens having an outstanding defense. And, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals, man, got a shellacking, you know, by the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, they beat us as well, and it's going to be interesting to see when the Chiefs play the Ravens, which, you know, if you're in our division, you probably have to root for them to beat the Ravens, because I think this is going to be somewhat of a dogfight, guys. I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to stretch the lead per se. You know, right now we're in the top, you know, because of percentage points. You know, we're 3-2-1. Those guys are 4-3, but we have, you know, less losses. So I'm guessing the way it's working is somehow the percentages is working in our favor. We're currently at the top. But we got a tough stretch. You know, after we get past Cleveland and past the Ravens, we still got a tough stretch of some decent, you know, teams that we're going to have to face. The Chargers, you know, look at the Chargers. They're 5-2 now. Phillip Rivers usually does a good job against the Steelers, man. So that's a game that we need to circle. We still got to play Drew Brees. Let's not forget that. We still got to see Cincinnati again. Who knows where they'll be by the time we play them again. But there's, you know, a couple teams in there that could give us a little bit of problem. We still got the Carolina Panthers. It will be on a short week. We play them the Thursday following the Ravens game. So there's a lot of things that we got to consider there. And I don't know if there's a real opportunity to, put some space in between us and them being the Ravens and the Bengals. But we'll see. We shall see. So let's talk a little bit really quick, man, about a couple things, of course, involving the Pittsburgh Steelers. First and foremost, Le'Veon Bell hasn't shown up again. It was rumored that he would come in during the bye week. He didn't show up yesterday. To my knowledge, he didn't show up today. Le'Veon Bell is probably just not going to show up until October 30th. The reason being is because that is the end of the trade deadline. I think Le'Veon Bell does not want to be traded. I mentioned this before. So it makes more sense for him to come in at that point. He still gets credit for the season. He basically saves the Pittsburgh Steelers pretty much half of that schedule, maybe more. Not schedule, but his tag, maybe more than half. Obviously he was due 14.5. He foregoed it. For every week he's been giving up $855,000. So if he comes in week 10 or whatever the week is that they say he has to be in by the time, by that time to avoid foregoing the season, saves the Steelers some money. He comes in that late. I don't know what we do with him, to be honest with you. At this point, guys, I'm ready to move on from Le'Veon Bell unless some miracle happens to where he just says, you know what, I want to stay in Pittsburgh. Can we get a deal done next year? I don't know. Outside of that, let's move on from Le'Veon Bell. I like what James Conner is doing, and I like what they are developing with James Conner. I do not want the chemistry disrupted. I love Le'Veon Bell as a player, but let's face it, man. The way this is played out, we can't worry about him. I'm going to borrow from Tomlin here and say we can only worry about the guys who are in the building and the guys who are playing. That's it. Let's get to the elephant in the room, guys. You guys see it in the title there, so let's go ahead and get to it. Patrick Peterson. Now, I'm going to ask you guys. First and foremost, and I can't wait to read you guys' responses. I'm going to ask it to you guys in a few different ways. Number one, should the Steelers trade for Patrick Peterson? Number two, do you think that's even possible for the Steelers to do that? Number three, what do you think it takes to get a Patrick Peterson? What do you give up? What or who do you give up to be able to acquire Patrick Peterson? He's made it known that he's basically saying to other teams, I want to be out of Arizona. So, the Arizona, their brass is saying they don't have plans to trade him. But, hey, we said the same thing about Martavis Bryant. Kevin Colbert repeatedly said, I know some of it was, hyperbole, as they say. But, they ended up trading him, when they said they wouldn't. So I don't think it's never, excuse me, I don't think it's ever off the table. I think if the right deal comes, you make it happen. So that's my question that I would throw at you guys. Again, should they do it? Will it happen? Do you think there's any chance of it happening? And if they do it, what is it going to take for that to happen? Let's talk about a couple other things, man. I've had some time to look at the film over and over and over. I've actually gone back, guys, believe it or not, and I've looked at games even prior to, the game that we had, not last week in terms of the football season, but last week in terms of the last time we played. Artie Burns, man, we already know he's just not the answer, guys. I think, honestly, it might be time to sit Artie Burns and maybe go with the other guys. It's hard to say what we could do with him being on the bench because it seems like to me Artie Burns still has to be a part of the rotation. But I don't know, man. I think at this point, I think his confidence is shot. His technique seems to be shot. And again, I've looked at a lot of Artie Burns plays this season, just basic stuff. I mean, when he's asked to play man or asked to play in zone, it's just basic stuff that he just hasn't been able to grasp. And I think it's in here. I think it's in his head. I think he has the physical attributes to play cornerback. He has speed, he has length, he's rangy. But excuse me, the number one attribute you got to have as a defensive back in the NFL is this: that brain. You got to be a cerebral player. to be able to play the cornerback position. I mean, think about somebody that we all can probably say was probably the best, if not, one of the best at least, cornerbacks of all time in Deion Sanders. He had exceptional speed, great instinct, but with all of that, he had this. He wouldn't have been able to play like that without having the wits and the smarts to know when to do this, when to take a chance, when to do that, and yeah, a lot of it he relied on his ability, makeup speed and such. But still, if you ain't got the cerebral part down, you might as well forget it. You're going to get roasted and toasted in the NFL trying to play cornerback. Let's see. Anything else, guys? Well, let me go ahead and talk about what I think we will have to do to secure victory against the Cleveland Browns. And give me a second, guys. I'm going to take a sip of water, man. I know that's unprofessional, but, it seems like I got a couple of things going on in here with the weather changes. Excuse me. All right. What will the Steelers have to do to beat the Cleveland Browns this time? So where there's one person that's being subtracted from the last matchup, there's another person being added. Okay, no Josh Gordon. So now it has come back to Jarvis Landry basically being the number one guy. There's still a couple other pieces on the team that you got to pay attention to. And Joko seems to be waking up a little bit. He has some skill. Tight end position has given us problems. So got to pay attention to that. But now there's Baker Mayfield. Now here's the interesting thing about Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has that. He has that uncanny ability of he's going to give it all he has. He's somewhat of a he will try to create to the best of his ability. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to definitely keep our eyes on him. I think he's definitely, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen in a short time, he's more accurate than Tyrod Taylor. He's more decisive than Tyrod Taylor. Baker Mayfield is also a guy that can use his legs if necessary. Pittsburgh Steelers often have problems containing mobile quarterbacks. We saw it with Tyrod Taylor in the first matchup. Him able, running around and ripping off a 20-something yard run for a touchdown. That concerns me. Baker Mayfield is the exact type of quarterback that could beat us. We've seen this story before. We saw it with Deshaun Kaiser. Okay? We saw it with Brett Hundley in Green Bay last year. And I'm just talking about the defenses that we've been putting out there on the field the last couple years. These type of quarterbacks cause problems. The guys that you wouldn't expect to cause a problem. We saw it with Jacoby Brissett. Not the most mobile guy. He can move when he needs to. But that was the type of guy that was able to light us up passing the ball. It concerns me, guys. This is the exact type of quarterback, for whatever reason, will give the Pittsburgh Steelers a problem after facing Matt Ryan and after facing Andy Dalton with weapons. It'll be a team like Cleveland with Baker Mayfield that he goes out there and has a career day. Concerns me. Definitely got to watch out for the running game like always. I think even with everything that I'm saying, if we can stop the run, if we can keep Chubb to a minimum, Duke Johnson, make Baker Mayfield beat you, I think we can outscore Cleveland. Let's face it. It was week 1, but we got into a point where we were basically taking the game over. James Conner fumbles, and that turns everything around. With all that said, they still couldn't beat us. They still tied us. But again, the X factor will definitely be Baker Mayfield. But, like I said, do I think the defense is capable of holding those guys to 21 points or so? Perhaps. Do I think we're capable of scoring 24 points or so? Perhaps. You do that, I'll take it, even if it's 24-21. And I know that they beat the Baltimore Ravens in a 12-9 game. I know, guys, it's week to week. You really can't compare apples to apples when it comes in the NFL, because sometimes the worst team beats the best team. That's just how it goes. It's just week to week. But I think coming off the bye, being rested, getting them at home, not feeling good about that tie, having an opportunity again to go 2-1 in the 3 straight division games, boom, that should give us enough oomph to get us going. We should be able to close the game out. But like I said, it's going to come down to holding those guys to under 21 points and definitely containing the run, meaning traditional run game and Baker Mayfield doing some things with his legs. Guys are going to have to finish sacks. You know, your Stephon Tuitt's of the world. Your Bud Dupree's, well, you know, let's start calling him Alvin Dupree. You know, I don't even know if I want to give him his nickname no more of Bud. He's definitely not Stud. He's teetering closer to Dud. You know, we know it's all jokes here, but Mr. Alvin Dupree, you need to finish some of these sacks. He just doesn't have the guys. If he could just develop some type of counter, he might be somebody. But Bud Dupree is really just a one-move guy, a speed rush, trying to beat you off the line, and that's all he got. He goes way too far upfield. But that's for another conversation. But we're going to have to do that, man. If we can get the pressure, we got to finish these sacks. We cannot allow Baker Mayfield to run around and create things with his legs. Remember that when we played Johnny Manziel, it was the same type of situation. See, these type of quarterbacks always threaten the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, contain the run, make Baker Mayfield beat you with the ball in his hand, with his arm. I think the Steelers can outduel the Cleveland Browns, even with the defense that they're supposed to have. They've been giving up a few more points here lately. But I think the Steelers offense, everything clicking. Ben is hot. Connor is hot. Juju is hot. AB is still putting up his numbers as far as touchdowns. Vance McDonald. I mean, I think we got enough weapons to make it happen. Last thing I'll say real quick, and then we'll move on and see what you guys got to say. I see you guys got a lot going on here in the comments. Morgan Burnett, man. I don't know. Listening to what Tomlin said, it sounds like he's not going to play this week either, man. And I never want to say somebody's been a disappointment when injuries are involved, because that's a part of the game. You never know when it's going to happen. But you know, us here lately taking chances on guys who've had a little bit of injury history has backfired on us. You guys remember Green, the tight end? Can't remember his first name right now for whatever reason, but y'all know who I'm talking about. The concussion guy. When he was on the field, stretching the field, you know, Vance McDonald is starting to fill that void. But remember when we had Green in there? Bad pickup in terms of he ended up being an injury-prone guy. Vance McDonald, even though Vance has stayed healthy the last couple of weeks, that's another one who last year riddled with injuries, okay? And here comes Morgan Burnett, which, again, comes in, you know, with a little bit of history of having some minor injuries and some, you know, injury knacks in Green Bay. Here he is, unable to get on the field. John Bostic has had injury history, but so far, Bostic has been able to maintain being on the field. So I'm just saying, when you take a look at those things, man, it seems like when we've been taking these chances with these guys, and sometimes it's been hurting us very, very bad. That's about all I got, man. Hold on, let me see. My boy Tony is sending me a text. Thank you, Tony. See, that's why Tony is my brother. Reminded me. Ladarius, that was his name. Ladarius Green. So there you have it. So that's about all I got, guys. Let's see what you guys got. Let's chop it up a little bit. And what up to everybody, man? I see all of the regulars in here. Shout outs to my father-in-law, Leonard, right around the corner. Frankie is in here. Kenyon, of course. Debbie and Rolling Young and Steeler Cards. James Jones. Naiz. Kelvin Colbert, a bunch of you guys, man, repeat offenders in terms of coming and viewing. You guys know who you are. So let's go ahead and start from the top and see what's going on. What you guys got for me tonight, man? Humble Gaming says, would love to get Patrick Peterson, but knowing the Steelers, they won't make the move and find someone for cheap. Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I can't wait to read and see what you guys got to say about Patrick Peterson. So let's see what's going on. And I don't even know what Pat Pete's contract situation is, guys, so I have no idea. Cable Prime says Ola Adeni. What do you believe his role will be? I don't know. I'm curious to see when it comes down to that what's going to happen with Ola and what's his name? Y'all know what I'm talking about, man. The little receiver. Eli Rogers. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with them in terms of if they're going to have them designate to return. Luckily enough, man, this year we don't really have big name guys on that list. So clearly, you know, we could designate both of them. I think you can designate 2 people to return now. I think those are the new rules. I think Adani, more than likely, I think gets an opportunity to play this year. I don't see the role for Eli Rogers anymore. Definitely with Ryan Switzer. I just don't see it. I don't know whose spot he takes. James Washington hasn't been productive, but that's clearly because, you know, the limited amount of snaps. Excuse me. And, you know, he hasn't had a lot of targets. And it seems like they've been using him kind of one-dimensional, man. You know, a lot of the, you know, deep shots have been to James Washington, so he's not getting a big opportunity. But I don't think you take him off the field and limit his opportunity for Eli Rogers. I think if anything, Ryan Switzer would have been the avenue for Eli Rogers to come back. Punt returner, you know, couple little gadget plays and things like that. Switzer has taken that over. So I don't know what happens with Eli Rogers, man. But I think Ola Adeni definitely might get an opportunity. We need more pass rushers. I think he has an opportunity, man. He seemed to be promising in training camp and preseason. So I think he gets a shot to play somewhere, if not anything else, special teams. So we'll see. LJ Ford, I know, you know, he's dealing with an injury bug as well. So a couple guys like that. Darius Haywood-Bay, I don't think we're missing him, not even on special teams. He had a little injury bug. And, of course, we know about Morgan Burnett. But we'll see what happens, man. Let's see. What else y'all got? Nae says, if I could make a suggestion, try to read the comments from the bottom first. Okay. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll take that in consideration next week. Only thing is, though, well, you know, I could change it to where it shows me the top comments. So I can do that because right now I have it going from, you know, newest on down. But if I read them in reverse, it's still kind of the same situation. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes because then I'll be answering things backwards if that makes sense. So I don't know. We'll see how we can make that change maybe going forward. Jesse Williams says, I agree it's going to be a struggle. We got to buckle our seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Our defense needs to improve more, and we got to use Vance McDonald more. Couldn't agree with you more with that comment. Vance McDonald is clearly the X factor for us, allowing other people to eat. Because if you start getting Vance McDonald going, and I think people are already starting to recognize Vance McDonald's value, that's going to allow less people to be able to, you know, play AB over the top or try to cover up Juju in the middle. So, yeah, got to go to Vance McDonald a lot more. Let's see. Let's get down to the Pat Pete information. So the Hawk says, yes, on the trade for Patrick, yes, it is possible. We have shown we can't draft a corner. Why not trade a -- pick plus Burns? Whoa. Let me read this to you guys again, and I want to know if you guys agree. And when you comment, say, yes, I agree with the Hawk, or yes, or no, I disagree with the Hawk, so I know exactly which comment you guys are agreeing or disagreeing to. So he says, absolutely, I'm going to paraphrase here, we should trade for Patrick Peterson. He said he'd be willing to give up a #1 and Artie Burns. Whoa. Do you guys agree or disagree with that? Let me give you my answer. First of all, I don't... maybe somebody would take Artie Burns along with the first-round pick. That could possibly be good value for a team. Absolutely a first-round pick. I don't know if the Steelers... You make a good point, man. I just don't know... Do I give up a #1? That's tough. Patrick Peterson is an outstanding player. We all know that. He's a little older now. So you have to weigh how many years you're going to get out of him. You're basically getting a slightly younger version of Joe Hayden. You know, I believe so. I think, what is Pat Pete? Somebody look that up for me. I think he's about 27, something like that. He might be the same age as Joe Hayden. I'm not 100% sure, but first round, that's tough. I don't know if I would do that. Maybe second. And then we are talking about the Rooneys in that organization. I don't know if they go that far. But, yeah, I absolutely would love to get Patrick Peterson on that team. 2 veterans, Hayden and Peterson. I'll take it any day of the week to make the defense better now. See what else you guys got. Somebody said put Burns in the slot. Nope. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but Burns is not going to move Mike Hilton out of the slot position, so that ain't going to work. At very best, Burns will be the guy who comes in during dime, which a lot of times, if y'all have noticed, the last couple games, Burns has really been coming in during sub package. You know, a lot of the time it's been Cody out there or Cam Sutton that's getting, you know, kind of getting the rotation in the base coverage. But yeah, you can't take Mike Hilton off the field. Can't take him out of the slot. A. Whitfield says, give them a first round for a 4th round and Artie Burns. So everybody trying to move Artie Burns. Okay. A 4th round for a 4th. A first round for a 4th. So we give them our first to get a 4th back and Artie. That still seems a little expensive, man. Still seems a little expensive. Debbie J, what up, Debbie? Debbie says, Pat Pete may not be available. Cardinals are saying he is not up for trade. Yeah, I saw that too. So it's even going to be, you know, a tough situation to even try to get him if possible. Kenyon Wright says, I wouldn't give up a first for Peterson. Do you know how many needs we have in 2019? No way. Outside linebacker, inside linebacker, running back, etc., etc., etc. I have to agree with Kenyon right there. I think it's a little too steep for my blood to give up a first. We got a lot of needs, man. Again, we're just talking about cornerback. We'd love to have a Patrick Peterson, but let's not forget, thank you, Kenyon, for bringing it up. Who is our real stud inside linebacker, guys? Who is our dominant outside linebacker outside of the potential of TJ Watt? Who's behind those guys? We got a lot of holes to fill on that defense. And hey, we might not even be done at the safety spot. Just saying. Morgan Burnett. Injuries. You know, your boy, which I think he's coming around, Edmonds, is a young guy, you know, so you still got to get some pieces behind those guys. So think about who's behind them right now. Dangerfield and Burhay. Marcus Allen ain't even got on the field. So I might have to agree with Kenya, man. I don't know if I go first round. Roland Young says, okay, we have a lot of needs, true, but outside of Shazier and Watt, what promise have the Steelers shown in drafting first-round defensive players? Exactly. We need to trade that pick and maybe a 4th. So this is a very good debate, guys. If we do that, so do we just go and lock up Patrick Peterson and then hope that we're going to, you know, get a top-notch guy in the draft in terms of inside linebacker and outside? It's a toss-up. It's a real toss-up. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't make that call. That's a tough one. I really can't make that decision. I see what you guys are saying on one hand, but on the other hand, it's just and you said outside of Shazier and Watt. I mean, in the last 4 or 5 years in the draft, I mean, those guys have been good picks. You know, draft picks are always hit or miss. And, you know, contrary to what a lot of Steelers fans want to believe, like me and Leonard have this debate all the time, guys are hit or miss. Jamarcus Russell. Look what that guy turned out to be as you know, as an NFL quarterback. You know, Trent Richardson. I mean, there's numerous guys that, you know, had talent. Now, I know some of y'all are probably going to say, oh, I didn't like them in college either. I get it. Landry Jones. You know, Landry Jones was in the Heisman race. You just never know what type of player you're going to get. Case in point, Tom Brady, Antonio Brown. Both of these guys going in, what, the 6th round? So you never know. Sometimes there's first-round guys who are busts. Other times there's first-round guys who are outstanding. So I can't beat up the Steelers just because our defensive grabs haven't worked. Artie Burns, no, wasn't the best pick. Didn't work out. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers were desperate at that time. They needed a corner. The guy that we wanted went right ahead of us to Cincinnati. It happens, right? Jarvis Jones was probably a project. Kind of undersized, you know, definitely playing outside linebacker in our scheme. But the man was leading sacks in the NCAA at the time in which he entered the draft. Didn't work out. You see what I'm saying? You just never know, you know, and look who we got years ago. Troy Polamalu moved up and got him. Look what he turned out to be, a stud. You see what I'm saying? Cam Hayward, another Steeler that was drafted by Tomlin. Turns out to be a stud. Like, you just never know. So I can't beat up the organization by saying we just don't do good picking defensive players. I can't say that. We've gotten some good ones. We've gotten some bad ones. And it happens all over the league, guys. It happens all over the league. You never know what somebody's going to be until they get out there and play. That's just how that goes. Let's see. What else y'all got, man? We're going to stay on for a little bit longer. Where we at? 31 minutes? Good time tonight. Let's see. I want to grab somebody who hasn't spoken yet. Champagne Poppy says defense should change their scheme to a scheme that fits the whole defense. Okay, Champagne, let's get a little more deep with that comment. What type of scheme based off of the players the Steelers have now should they change to? What should we be running? This should be a good conversation between you guys as well. Darren Clark said Artie has got to go. I fully agree. Fully agree, man. Artie, his time is probably up. Kelvin Colbert says Peterson and Hayden is a great combo. Yeah, it would be great. I would love to see it. Especially, let me tell y'all why I would like to see it now if it could happen. I don't think it can, but if it could, because of the lack of the deficiencies that we have at inside linebacker and outside, where we're not generating a huge amount of pressure with our front guys. We are way up there. I mean, I know a week or so ago we were #1 in sacks, but we're still not getting enough pressure without blitzing. So I would rather have two corners that can lock things up a little longer than an average corner to help out the front end. Because the front end and the back end works together. Whether it's the front end helping the back end or the back end helping the front end, they work together. So I would love to have that now while we don't have the best talent at inside linebacker and outside linebacker to get the pass rush. But thinking about the future, it's tough, man. I still don't think I would go first round pick for Pat Pete, as much as I love Pat Peterson, but I don't know. Let's see what else. James Breadlove says Dupree needs to work with a mentor in the offseason. Yeah, and he actually did, man, this past season. He worked with a pass rush specialist, and it's not translating on the field for whatever reason, man. 17th letter says should have never signed him. Who are you referring to, my man? You talking about Bud or who? All right, I got a bunch of comments here, guys. So I am going to take Naiz's his point, and I'm going to go further down and start reading. Oh, Patrick Peterson's 28. See? Y'all see what I'm saying? Yeah, see, and that's the problem, guys. Again, let's take off the fan hat and let's put on the GM hat for a second. I see it on both sides, okay? Ben Roethlisberger said he's probably going to try to play 3 to 5 more years. I think it's closer to 3 than 5. Or, if he stays healthy like he has been, maybe he does stick around. But case in point, we are in somewhat of a win now mentality with Ben being in his latter years. So the idea would be is do whatever you can do right now while you have that quarterback the receivers that you have, because let's not forget Antonio Brown is aging as well, even though he doesn't really show any drop-off. At one time, we would have said also having Le'Veon Bell, which, you know, maybe you get him for the rest of the season. I don't know. I understand the win-now mentality. But Patrick Peterson, you would expect, wouldn't get more than a 3-year deal maybe. And I don't know what's remaining on his deal, but you would think it would be much like Joe Hayden. Steelers are probably not going to extend much further than that with him being 28 years old. So that's the thing. Do you spend the first-round pick on a 28-year-old, soon-to-be 29-year-old cornerback that obviously, guys, he has lost a step. They all lose a step. He's still great, but we can all say Joe Hayden is not the Joe Hayden he used to be, still playing good football. But what I'm saying is, look at Richard Sherman right now. That day is coming for these guys because Richard is 30, 31. You see what I'm saying? It's nature. I mean, when you play in a certain position, some guys are freaks of nature, like a Darryl Green. I know Leonard would know who that is. Tony would know. Some of you older guys would definitely know. Dude was running 4.340s at like 40 years old. That don't happen every day. Most guys in a cornerback and a wide receiver position, speed starts to diminish a little bit, and your twitchiness is not quite there. Your skills are going to go down. It's just how it is. It's just the way of the land, you know, it's just how it goes. So I don't, the GM had is telling me you don't go first round, but you could throw something out there. Maybe you could slide Artie Burns in maybe a second, third round. Maybe a team finds that attractive. I don't know. But I don't think you give up a first round pick for a cornerback in his latter years. Just my thoughts. But I appreciate you guys letting me know his age. Debbie says she disagrees with the Hawk. I am never giving up my first. I may trade my position for Pat Pete and another pick in the other rounds, 2 to 4, but not giving up my draft pick. I have to agree with that. Now, Darren Clark says, yes, I agree with the Hawk. So, as you can see, we all have different opinions, and this is a beautiful thing. That's why I like to pose these questions, guys, just to show us all, we all have our different opinions of how we would run the organization. That's the reason why I don't blame so much coaching and blame so much on GM, and I give everybody equal blame. But again, I don't know what goes on in that building. I believe that Coach Tomlin, along with his staff, is teaching these guys what they're supposed to do. I do believe that Coach Tomlin and his staff make bad decisions at times. I do believe that Keith Butler might call a bad play here and there, but I don't think is as largely spread as we all think. Quite often, you look at what happened on the field, sometimes it's the players. We can all agree, Artie Burns is not the best player. I don't know what else we are expecting Tomlin or Butler to do for his inconsistencies. We see other players having decent success in the same defense. So that's why this is just the position I take. All of our opinions are different. This is why I just don't scream all the time and blame everything on this or that. We don't know. Unless we're in that organization, on that field, we have no idea. But this is beautiful. I like to see when you guys have different opinions. Frank V says, I got blocked by the Steelers Depot early for calling them out. Oh, man, what'd you do? Someone on the depot was cussing at a random fan. I called them out for treating the fans like that, and they blocked me. Well, listen, this ain't the Steelers Depot here. I do listen to those guys. You know, shout outs to Dave Bryan and Mark Maxey and Alex Kazur. I think they do great work over there, but I can't speak for them. I think it should be a fair thing. You know, if they were cursing at somebody overly ridiculously, and you called them out, I think it's fair. They should be able to take that and accept it and move on. I don't know if that deserves a block, and at the same time, I don't know what the situation was, so I can't really defend them or you. But I would say this: you don't have to worry about that type of thing over here as long as everybody keeps it cordial. I'm not into the blocking, but when people start acting ignorant, cursing, calling people out of their name, racial slurs, anything like that, gotta go. I will invite you to the block party. I'll even put you on the VIP list to the block party. That's how I get down. But yeah, I can't speak for those guys over there. What up, Todd? Todd L. Chapman in the building. My main man right there, diehard Steeler fan. Not tonight, guys. I meant to say this earlier at the top of the show. I'm actually not doing the live calls tonight. I'm having some issue with Skype. I don't know what's going on with it, man. Sometimes you have to re-upload it. If some of you guys could help me out with this, I think I want to try to move on to Discord, perhaps, or another way that I could capture audio with you guys, a better way for you to call in. If you know anything that works a little better than Skype, doesn't cost anything, please give me your thoughts on that. I looked into, and shout outs to Debbie, she gave me this suggestion. She told me about Skype for Business, which would be great because I could queue up calls. Only problem with that is it costs. So I would hate for you guys to have to pay just to have, to be able to call in. I don't want to do that. Regular Skype works just fine as long as it's working, which tonight I'm having a problem with it. So that's the only issue there. Technology, man, you can't live without it, but sometimes it gets on your nerves, right? But so yeah, tonight I'm not going to be able to take live calls, but I promise, that should be back in effect come recap show after the game and come next Tuesday for Terrible Towel. Let's see what else. My boy Tony. Let me read what my boy Tony had to say here. Tony says, "I'll keep Artie." He says, "I'll keep Artie. Remember Ike, Townsend, and Gay, and those guys won Super Bowls and played better as years went on. No pass rush." Let me tell you something. Tony makes a good point, and me and Tony talk about this quite often. We have to remember that Ike Taylor one time was benched. Yes, he was. Deshae Townsend ended up being a bum at some point, right? We know that. William Gay. Y'all remember the love-hate relationship we had with William Gay? At one time, we was like, oh, I kind of like this kid. And then we remember how he was getting torched up. Quite often, it was him being caught in the slot and Joe Flacco going over the top to somebody late in the game to win at Heinz Field. Or it was and I have to give him credit for this one, good solid coverage on Jordy Nelson, just a better pass by was the kid Aaron Rodgers in that Super Bowl. But remember going into that, I don't know if you guys felt this way, but Tony probably remembers, I was like, man, I'm scared of Aaron Rodgers in that passing game. I don't trust William Gay, right? William Gay leaves, comes back and does some good things for us, but then his age starts to show. And so the point we're making is maybe Artie Burns is not washed yet. I mean, he's very young, guys. In reality, it's his third season. He's only 23. We all agree he came out of school too early. So maybe there's time for him. I just don't know. I think he has to show something very, very soon because the way it is right now, I do not think the Steelers are going to pick up his fifth-year option, which they have to make that decision after this season. So he better put his foot on the gas, man, if he wants to get paid. Let's see what else we got. We're going to stay on a little bit longer. And, guys, don't forget, man, don't be scared. Hit that like button. Come on, man. It's only 12 likes. Y'all can do better than that. Hook me up. Let's see. Brandon Yancey says, I agree. The goal is to get as many draft picks as possible. There are a lot of... Yo, I'm going to read it the same way he wrote it because he corrected himself. He says, and female listeners, please just don't get offended by this, but this is hilarious. He said, there are a lot of holes, I mean holes, in our defense. Find a way to trade Bell, get Artie Burns out of here, and make some moves. So I just wanted to laugh at that, guys, because I know he didn't write that out purposely, and he corrected it, so I just thought that was funny. No shame in mine. I'm going to read funny stuff, and like I said, I'm sure our female listeners won't be offended by that, but I wanted to at least point it out in case you are. There's no pun intended there. But yeah, that would be great. I mean, I don't know if anybody takes Bell at this point. I mean, the longer he stays out. But listen, like you said, if somehow they can magically make it happen, get Bell out of there. I don't need Bell for 7, 8 games or whatever it's going to be. I don't need him for that. If you can make it happen, get him to sign the tag, and then you're able to find a team that will trade for him and get some more players in, great. Great. Get some more draft picks. I would love it. Eli Coolin says, Pat Pete is going to fall off in about 2 years. I would much rather take my chances on Mac Wilson or Devin White. You've seen how big Shazier was for us and how he made up for a lack of talent on defense. You know what? Round of applause. Round of applause. That describes Ryan Shazier's importance to that defense in a nutshell. He made up for so many holes in that defense. Boy, did he. His speed. I mean, and let's not forget. Let's be fair. Yes, things happened to us when Ryan Shazier was in the game. Yes, sometimes Ryan Shazier would shoot the gap and miss the tackle. Yes, we know he wasn't perfect, but he made up for a lack of efficiency on that defense. He was the playmaker. Just some of the ridiculous interceptions he would get. Remember the game against Baltimore last year in Baltimore? How was he able to recover and get out and pick that ball off going to the tight end? Regular linebackers just can't do that. He had instincts. You know, he was a cerebral guy. We started finding out and hearing from, other teammates. This guy's always in the locker room. I mean, in the film room. You even hear it from guys like Tunch and Wolf would say, yeah, he'd come in and beat us into the film room. He was on his way. I think he was trending up. He was getting better and better and better. And the unfortunate happened. And like my brother Tony just said, I think Ryan Shazier is probably done, man. I mean, I hate to be like Tony said. I don't want to be insensitive. But when you look at the way he walks, he still has that little, hitch in his step. I don't see it. I know his goal is to come back, but I just don't see it. The only thing that's on his side is he is relatively young. Maybe he could miss another season, and I don't know. But let's not put our eggs in that basket. I think Ryan Shazier's playing career may be over, but I do like keeping him around, man, if they can, even after this year. Just to keep him around the organization, because I think he can definitely help in some other capacity. Let's see. Roland Young says, Sim, you're making my point for me is hit or miss with Pat Pete. It's no miss. He's still at the top of his game right now. But that's the point, Roland. And again, you're not right or wrong. Not at all. But we got to look at it like this. Are we fans that want to just throw everything into now, or are we looking ahead? Because it's like I tell Tony all the time. As much as people complain about Mike Tomlin, and as much as people, dislike Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm just throwing the negatives out there because there's as many people who love these guys. But for everybody that you want to complain about, and Le'Veon Bell, et cetera, guess what? In 20 years, guess who's still going to be a Steelers fan? Me. My point is, I'm about the team. I have favorite guys that I like that have come and gone. Hines Ward is one of my favorite Steelers of all time. I just liked everything about him in terms of who he was on that field. Okay? He's gone now. I can't worry about Hines Ward right now. And even when they was talking about possibly, some fans saying we should bring Hines Ward in to be the receiver coach, I was like, nah, I don't know if Hines is that guy. He's a great mentor on the sideline, but we talking about coaching. We don't know if he can do that. Same thing I said about Joy Porter. We don't know, and I love Joy Porter. We don't know if he's a great coach. So I'm about team first. So even after some of y'all get y'all wish and Tomlin is no longer there, and whoever the next guy is, whatever, great. Let's keep it moving. Because I'm going to always be a Steelers fan until, I'm no longer on this earth. Which nobody wants to talk about that, but, So I can't go with the now. I will say that this is the best time for us to strike, obviously because of the quarterback we have and the offense. And you would think we're in our last days in terms of winning a Super Bowl. I get it. But, again, I try to take my heart out of it, and I use my head, and I try to think from the organization standpoint. I don't see it. I don't see them going out on a limb to get Patrick Peterson, to give up that much. I don't see it. Now, if they do it, great. Hey, philosophy change, fine. I'm cool with it. I just don't see it happening. And me personally, I'd rather have more draft picks instead of throwing a first at a guy who's 28. I get you saying he's on the top of his game, but come on, man. I mean, nah, I don't see it. Just my opinion. Nobody's right or wrong here. So let me take one or two more, guys, and then we'll be done for tonight. Yeah, we up to 50 minutes now. Let's see. Eric Walker says, we're definitely going to need some upgrade at cornerback position for us to contend with the Pats and Chiefs in the playoffs. I could agree. But I think, honestly, man, I think if we could get our pass rush going a little more, and those are the things I guess you have to consider too as coaches. We all know, man, especially for some of us who may have played in the secondary when we played football, it starts in the front end. You can have the best cornerbacks in the world. If you ain't getting no pressure, forget about it. We've seen this happen over the years. We saw a time when even the Legion of Boom was getting torched because there's no pressure. Like, so we have to, sometimes we can definitely look at, let's pick on Artie. We can look at times when we look at Artie and be like, why'd you do that? But there are other times, man, where if you give the quarterback 5 seconds in the pocket, I don't care who it is, you can't cover nobody for that long. So, yeah, Artie Burns is probably, in my opinion, one of the weaker, if not the weakest link in the secondary. But at the same time, before we're ready to throw the bank at Patrick Peterson, you know, coaches evaluate things and they look at stuff like, well, you know, really this is the real problem. We're not getting enough pressure. They might not see the same value in taking a guy and throwing so much to get him. I just don't know. I just want to prepare you guys as Steelers fans to be prepared for them to do what the Steelers do and not throw as much as a first-round pick to Patrick Peterson. And I do think that's probably what it's going to take to get him. I don't see that happening, so I don't think he ends up in Pittsburgh. If he does, hip, hip, hooray. All right, so one more, guys. Let's go. Let's see what else y'all got. One more. Let's see. Alan Woodall. This will be the last one I read. And I appreciate you guys improving those likes, man. And keep it moving. Keep it going. If you guys can do it, so for you guys who haven't done it, hit that like button, man. Let's keep it going. So Alan says, Mike Tomlin has a great record. Ben is the best quarterback since Bradshaw. I'm like you. I root for the Steelers since the early 70s. Still here. Players have gone. I'm still here. And that's it. You know, and it's funny, man. Maybe I'm maturing as a fan. I don't want to say that because I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just saying it was a time when I just, why y'all don't do this? Why y'all don't do that? Why y'all don't? Now that I've become more of a, like I said, a more mature fan in terms of I look at the bigger picture for watching for, you know, several years. You know, I don't go as far back as the 70s. You know, I just wasn't that old then. But, you know, when I started really, really watching, you know, football and understanding some of the business side of things, and as I get older and I start maturing, you know, I take some of that hastiness away, and I understand the business. Still stern, but I get it. You know, it is not an easy decision. I know some people will say, man, that's a no-brainer. You get Pat Pete, give up that first round. That ain't as easy as you think, man. From a business standpoint, it's not. You know, a GM's job is to make sure a team is not only successful for the current, not only chasing Super Bowls, but they have to make sure that that team continues to be a successful team. And that goes beyond the current season. That's what the job of a GM. You're always looking for the best players, yes, but you also have to do what's best for the business. We can't forget that. And we know Kevin Colbert. I'm pretty sure Art Rooney above him is making the same decisions. It's not likely for them to go that far to get Patrick Peterson at this stage of his career. I just don't see it. Joe Hayden was a little different. Joe Hayden was cut. Let's not forget that. He was cut. So I keep seeing people throwing that at me on Twitter. Well, they went and got Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden was cut. Let's not forget that. There wasn't a trade. So there you have it, man. Just my 2 cents. Love you guys, man. This was a great talk. Always a great time to have fellowship with the fans. Oh, man. Let's hit that applause for my brother Smooth. Appreciate the donation, man. You guys are too kind. A lot of you guys that have come through and donated. I hate the mushy stuff, man. And people always tell me I need to say this. If you want to donate, guys, it's right there in the bottom of the comment section. You just click the little $sign, and you have ways that you can donate. You can use PayPal, etc. It's secure. It doesn't come to me. It goes to YouTube or whatever. But people always say, man, you should tell people how to donate. There it is. If you want to, great. If you don't worry about it. But I always appreciate you guys that do. Outside of that, man, I think that'll do it. Let's hope for a good win come Sunday. We're at home. We need to get that one. Remember, I said we needed to go 2-1 in the division in the 3 games. We got Cincinnati. We need to get at least one more to stay in contention for the division, because I think it gets a little crazy in the second half of the season for all of the teams, and we got to make sure we stack up those divisional wins because it's going to be tough, I think, to go to Baltimore this year and win. So this is the game that we need to get. We need to get this one on Sunday, put that one in the bank, then whatever happens, happens in Baltimore. All right, so again, man, if you haven't already, if you are a Steelers fan, you like what you see, we do this every Tuesday on and off season. So it's all Tuesdays. We do it all throughout the year. Slows down a little bit in the off season, but if there's enough to talk about, we keep it rolling. I've added something new this year. I do a post-game show. So after each game, later in that day, sometimes following the game immediately, if it's a 1 o'clock game, I do a post-game show, and there you have it. If you like other content, if you're into gaming, check out the channel. I do various things in that aspect as well. So there you have it. A lot of content for you to enjoy. So if you haven't subscribed already, do yourself a favor and go ahead and do that. Cut on your notifications, guys, so you know when the videos are available. Most of you guys do a good job with that. I don't want you to miss anything. And also, don't forget to hit the like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Go ahead and do that. It ain't going to hurt you to do that. Go ahead and do it. All right? But all right, man, here we go. Steelers. See you guys Sunday. Hopefully we're talking about a W. All right, man, I'm out of here, man. You guys have a great night. Love you guys, man. Y'all be safe, and we'll talk on Sunday. All right? Peace.